All right, so that's as far as Ujjivan as well as Equitas are concerned. Definitely seeing strong traction coming in for both these stocks in trade at the moment. In fact, let me welcome in Manvi Deshlahara as well of CapitalVia Global Research. Welcome to the show, Manvi. Very good afternoon to you. Let's talk about Indiabulls Housing. You know, we've just seen this move in the counter. It's a back above 660, nearly 670 levels. It's a 3.5% jump that's playing out, and it's now the top Nifty gainer of the day. Spike coming in the last few minutes. What's the sense that you have on this chart?
So, thank you, first of all, for having me here. But now talking about Indiabulls, if we were to see the chart or the 15-minute chart that we can plot, we see that there's a consolidation that had been going on for the stock for the entire day, for today, in fact, for the past few days as well. It showed some particular peaks, but overall it was in a short-term consolidation. And this is actually a big jump, and we should probably be a little bullish towards this stock and the sector in general as well.
All right, so looking good for a short-term trade is an Indiabulls Housing Finance. One more stock for you, Vaishali, SBI, looking good once again. It's very close to its all-time highs, 370. Vaishali, what would you call on SBIB?
So SBI for a long term, well, it may resist at 370, that was the previous high, but for a longer time frame, I would look at a target of 420. So SBI is a buy at every decline, and if people have bought it to lower levels, it's a hold.
All right, so State Bank of India, that's the view, and in fact, we're trading just off the highs of the day, 1.5% up at this point. Bank Nifty not looking bad at all. You know, it's about 185 that's playing out on the Bank Nifty. We are seeing strength coming in from names like State Bank of India. HDFC Bank has also turned positive. We're seeing again, in fact, about 0.3% on that counter. Bank of Baroda also on the move, but what's under pressure is very clearly a Yes Bank ahead of numbers. 3.5% cut coming in for this one at this point in time. Manvi, any call that you have on this one?
So, for Yes Bank, what particularly strikes me for this particular stock is that it was one of the top gainers yesterday. There was a lot of anticipation for good results. But if we see the stock today, it hasn't really been performing well. So probably the market actually took into account all the anticipation, and they are sort of expecting losses or probably a second quarter with continuous losses for this stock. I'd still recommend a buy call for this stock at a price range above 110 for a target of about 120 points and placing the stop loss at 90.
All right, so looking good for a short intraday trade as a Yes Bank for you. It's a little quiet right now, of course, so we're expecting those numbers to come out any moment now, but on the move, definitely a Yes Bank. I believe, Manvi, you have a couple of trading calls for us. Which are the stocks on your radar?
So one stock that really strikes is Bata India to me. Now, if you see this particular stock for a daily chart, you see that there's an insider bar strategy that's quite visible, and it's been consolidating at a level of 1,360. So if it's able to bounce back from the current support levels that the stock is going through, we should be expecting a bullish signal for this particular stock. It's also been trading in the range of 40 and 200 simple moving averages, which is a pretty good sign. And the MACD for this stock has also been quite positive. So I'd recommend a buy call for this stock at going long about at 1,365 plus and placing a target at 1,380 with a stop loss at 1,340 points.
All right. The other name that you have for us is an Ultra Tech, and we've seen quite a bit of traction in some of these cement stocks. In fact, we'll bring you a fundamental analyst call on this as well. What's the view on this?
So for Ultra Tech as well, I think right after the budget announcements as well, it's been pretty positive for the cement and the metal industries and all these sectors, the construction sector particularly. We had a lot of good initiatives that the government is planning to take. So for Ultra Tech Cement as well, if we see that the stock has been consolidating for the past 3 days on a daily chart in the range of 4,500 to 4,600, and we should expect it to go bullish since it's positive on MACD and it's been holding that way. And there should be a new resistance probably around 4,701. So I'd recommend a buy call for even this stock for a target of 4,701. Going long at 4,632 points and placing the stop loss around 4,599 points.
Right, that's Ultratech for you.
Right.
Vaishali, anything that you like in the cement basket? I mean, sporadically we do see some good gains over here. ACC, I think a couple of days back was looking good. Ambuja had seen some positivity. ACC is of course coming out with its numbers tomorrow as well. Any trades in any of these cement counters for you?
So I think most of the cement stocks have a similar chart pattern. In fact, Ambuja also has good potential because it has made a double bottom. So around 220, about 220, it should go towards the target of 240. But among which I think Ultratech and Shree Cements are the two stocks which look very favorable at this juncture, because Ultratech right now is technically quite well placed with a stop loss of 4550. I would recommend a buy for a target of 4800.
All right, so that's a consensus view then from the experts. Ultratech looking good going forward from here. In fact, Ultratech's holding out fairly positive at this point. We are seeing some pressure coming in for other cement counters. Nonetheless, we are of course watching out for the June quarter earnings. They're expected to do fairly well for the quarter gone by. Benign operating costs expected to boost the numbers that we're looking at, particularly on the margin front. ACC, remember, will be declaring its results soon also. In fact, we had a conversation with Mangesh Bhadang, analyst at IDBI Capital, listening to his expectations from these cement stocks going forward.
So basically, June quarter, we are expecting this to be a very good quarter for cement companies, specifically on the EBITDA per ton side. So the volume growth, we are expecting it to be a meager. Probably a few companies should show a decline YoY. But because the pricing was so good in the market, most of the companies, or in fact the industry, should ideally report 250 to 400 rupees increase in EBITDA per ton than what they had reported last time around.
And that's as far as the cement space is concerned. We are seeing good traction across the board, and of course, like Manvi mentioned, some of the budgetary announcements perhaps will be factoring into the optimism as well. But the top gainer at the moment, as far as the Nifty goes, is UPL. It's a 2.5%, nearly 3% jump coming in on this one, and in fact, we're seeing good traction across the entire agri-exposed sector at this point. Many fertilizer stocks on the move as well. Just a call on UPL from you, Vaishali. First, 2.5% jump coming in there. Do you expect further upside, particularly after the kind of cut that we've seen recently?
Are we talking about UPL?
Yes, that's right.
So UPL, I think, yes, it's time for a takeoff, and well, technically even we have recommended this stock. So well, 620 holds to be a good support level, and with today's candle, if it sustains above 660, 665, we would be aiming for a target of 700 to 730.
All right, so that's a UPL for you, 2.5% jump coming in on that counter. Good gains on that one. The entire infra basket is also on the move. So look at IRB Infra, 6.5% gains coming in on that one. KNR Construction's up 4.5%. Reliance Infra is doing well for itself. You're seeing traction on a Sadbhav Engineering, 3.5% on that counter. So some positivity being built into select infra and more importantly the road developers over here. Manvi, IRB Infra, it's amongst the top gainers in F&O as well right now. Strong OI addition that we can see on this counter too. Any call on this chart?
Yeah, well, there seems to be a price volume breakout as well for this particular stock, and it's been performing quite well for today. And there's an overall uptrend, and there's been the MACD has just turned positive. So if you see that there's a crossover from the zero line for this particular stock, I'd recommend going long at 95 and placing the stop loss at around 90 with a target for 100.
All right, target of 100 on that one. 90 would be your stop loss coming in on IRB Infra. Good day coming in across the board as far as many of these stocks go. In fact, Vaishali, let's get a quick view from you on Sadbhav Engineering. We did see, of course, some good news coming in for this one as well, and we'll talk about that in a second. But how does the chart look? It's just off the highs of the day. Vaishali, that was to you. Sadbhav Engineering, if you have a call on this one. All right, possibly a little trouble there with the line, I think. All right, I'm sorry, Vaishali, if you can hear me, please go ahead. Your call on Sadbhav.
Yeah, so Sadbhav also actually, well, we have seen in all these mid caps and IRB Infra also, there has been a good erosion, and now, of course, being in oversold, we may expect some bounce back. But among this, I prefer Ashoka Buildcon, and also Larsen would be my better pick for these two, for this counter.
All right, so better names there than a Sadbhav Engineering, L&T of course, and Ashoka Buildcon are a couple of charts that you can look at. Let's just hear out from the management of Sadbhav Engineering as well. We had a word with them. They've been getting some orders. They have been reorganizing their business, moving a couple of assets into InvITs as well. Let's hear out what Nitin Patel has to tell us as we take a quick break as well.
The idea is to remain with the trust. So that is the reason basically we have also agreed to take 10% of the unit of the trust. So and we had during this entire process we have seen the trust has the intent to make it very large actually, because the investors are very strong and they had a basically big appetite to go for developing and commitment into the highway sector in India. And we, being the basically operating partner, now intend to basically align with their interests, so long as the capital call will be taken by the same and the execution and maintenance will be taken by the Sadbhav.
Welcome back. You're watching Closing Bets. So we're still trading under that 11,700 mark, and nonetheless we're positive on the Nifty, and the Bank Nifty has just pared back some of the gains that we were trading with. They're still trading positive, and the breadth is fairly positive as far as both the Nifty and the Bank Nifty are concerned. Broader markets though seeing a bit of pressure, so we're seeing a cut of about 0.1% on both the mid as well as the small cap index. But what's doing well, Vaishali, are a few of these mid cap pharma names, and this is a trend that we saw yesterday as well. Names like Ajanta Pharma, Biocon, good traction coming in today's trading day. Any of these names looking interesting to you?
So now I'm looking at Glenmark. Ajanta and Torrent Pharma already have done well. So I think now it's time to look into Glenmark Pharma, because it is consolidating at 440 levels. So once it moves past 455, I think this stock would be ready for an up move towards 480 to 500 levels. And well, Cadila is another stock. Biocon has already started its up move, and now Cadila also. So about 248 would be a good level to re-enter.
Right. In fact, most of the pharma names are looking good, and as Vaishali said, they've picked up some traction. The index has quietened down a little today, but last few days have been positive. Sun Pharma, let's pull that chart up too. It's a little quiet in today's trading session, but again, it has rallied for 7 straight sessions. So a little bit of correction or possibly consolidation here is warranted. But Manvi, how is this chart looking? Because it moved quite smartly from 370 to 430 in the last 8 sessions. Where does Sun Pharma go next from here?
So if we were to see the past 5-7 days, it's rallied more than 15% for this particular stock. And we can be bullish on this stock because it's been showing a consistent uptrend with the overall expectations just increasing for this stock. And we should probably be looking out for the zone of 440 for this stock. For a target of 440, it might face resistance over there. And we can have a stop loss around 420.
All right, so that's the view on Sun Pharma. 420 becomes your stop loss. It's been a stellar move coming in for this one. 11.5% gains coming in just the last week or so. In fact, let me welcome in Parthiv Shah as well, director at Tracom Stock Brokers. A very good afternoon to you, Parthiv. Just a quick view on Sun Pharma from you. You know, we've had very, very bullish calls coming in on this one. And the big trigger being the Morgan Stanley double upgrade that came in as well, and the stock today is consolidating slightly, but nonetheless, has been on a very good run. Are you buying into the pharma story, and amongst them, do you like Sun Pharma?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on the show. Certainly, I think our sense is that we have seen bulk of the pain in most of these US-centric pharmaceutical companies. More importantly, if I have to talk about Dr. Reddy's, Sun Pharma and Lupin. And I think our bet is more on Lupin and Sun Pharma. And the reason being that we know for the fact that in the US markets, these companies since last many quarters has seen a lot of pain in the existing pipeline in terms of the pricing pressure. And now it seems that in this market, I think a lot of generic players are out because of the pricing pressure, and more importantly, the smaller generic players which were giving the unhealthy competition. So now I think there's a lot of confidence that I think there's a limit or rather a floor to which the prices can go lower for go down further. And that's the key reason why I think we are seeing some sense of confidence coming in from managements of Lupin and Sun Pharma in terms of the US business, which will re-emerge. And more importantly, I think they also have the specialty pipeline, where we know for the fact that it takes a lot of upfront research and a lot of spend to get these products on the marketplace. And I think they have very less competition, which will be very beneficial to these guys, especially when these drugs are launched come FY 2021. So I think overall, currently looking at the market caps of Sun Pharma and Lupin, I think even if I have to consider their current Indian business, which is almost 28-30% of their total revenue kitty, which is growing at around 15%, the current market cap justifies probably the Indian business. So I think the sum of part valuation of even the international business is coming in very low at the current market prices. And that's the key reason for our bullish stance on these companies over the next 2 to 3 years. We are expecting better pricing environment, and more importantly, the compliance issues are most of them behind these companies, and we'll see the plants again coming back on stream, and they'll be able to kind of get new product approvals as well. So that will reinstate the confidence, and probably this is a value trade that I feel, and a sector which has been lagged out since last many quarters.
Absolutely, it's a sector that's been under pressure for the last many quarters. So names like Sun Pharma, of course, have been on the move. But on the other hand, look at Biocon, used to be a trader's favorite, has been hovering near its 52-week lows for a while, hasn't really participated in this recent up move in pharma names. Today, you had some adverse news coming in for a Strides as well. That stock, although not at the lows of the day anymore, has seen sharp cuts in today's trading session. So still a bit of a mixed bag, but as our experts have been telling us, technically as well as fundamentally, select names in pharma are definitely looking good for a trade as well as some portfolio bets right now. So watch out for the entire pharma basket going forward from here. Autos, after a bounce back for the last couple of days, seems to have turned the other way today. Eicher Motors is amongst the top losers. In fact, it's a 3.5% cut that we're seeing on Eicher right now. Similarly, Maruti down about 1%, Bajaj Auto on the back foot as well, Hero Moto, M&M has been weak in any case. Vaishali, was it just a bit of a technical adjustment that we saw, the up move in the last few days? Is auto, in fact, going to head lower from here? Could there be any shorting ideas in autos, do you feel?
So looks like, because well, it's very misleading at this level, but I think as far as if we talk stock specific, I think Maruti has a good technical support at 5800 levels, so that would be a favorable level to accumulate from there on. But otherwise, on the whole, sector is not showing consistency. Every bounce and then after that attempt there is a sell off, so not much to talk about it right now.
Right, not much to talk about in auto. Maruti, in fact, back below 6100. We are, of course, continuing to see pressure for most of these names. Tata Motors, Manvi, this is an interesting one. Yesterday, we saw a fairly strong move come into this one, but as always, we've given up the gains and we're stuck in this range as far as Tata Motors goes. 1.5% cut at the moment. How's it looking to you?
Well, the auto sector in general is looking quite bearish to me, keeping in mind that there hasn't really been anything great that has come up for this particular sector, and there's been a slack in sales, and they are expecting job cuts. But we can have a bearish call on Tata Motors. I think we should we can be bearish on the auto sector in general as well, and we should probably be aiming at this particular stock going down in the range of about 160, 150. So probably we should be targeting the zone of 150 as the target price, and we can have a stop loss around 175 maybe for this stock.
All right, so it's a shorting idea there. Tata Motors can head low from these levels. Had slowly and steadily in the last 6-7 sessions, in fact, moved up, but that downtrend seems to have come back to Tata Motors. Watch out for this one. But it's been 8 straight months of contraction as far as sales goes. It's been 4 straight months of production cuts. Even vehicle registrations have been going down. In fact, that's the trend we got from the FADA data that came out yesterday, on back of which we spoke with Rakesh Sharma, ED at Bajaj Auto. Two-wheeler sales are normalizing a little, but were still down about 5% in the previous month. Here's what he had to tell us on the road ahead and beating this slowdown in the auto sector.
After the festive season of last year, which was around October, end of October 2018, there has been a progressive decline. So quarter 4 was worse than quarter 3 of last year, and quarter 1 of this year, the new year, has been worse than quarter 4. And June of quarter one has been worse off than April and May, and the first 2 weeks of July are indicating the continuation of this declining trend. Though I would like to add that July is, of course, because of the monsoons, a little bit of a depressed month. But taking that into account also, there has been a declining retail trend. The story looks a bit more serious when you look at the primary sales, which the OEs make to the dealers, because, there has been destocking which has been going on by all of us. But at the retail, it is not as bad as it looks at the billing level. However, it's still in the negative zone.
Now, there is a possibility that we could see the pre-buying impact that could be coming in at retail level ahead of, BS6 implementation. But it does not seem that was actually going to happen at wholesale level, taking into consideration the need to go ahead and cut that inventory levels, in terms of FY20. How big a concern is that going to be? Because even if retail picks up, wholesale level, we are not going to see that.
I must say that the issue is not really this year, because now in another month's time we are entering a festive zone which should see slight improvement in retails. Though I do feel that the issues which the industry is facing, I can talk about the motorcycle industry, are more structural, because we are seeing the culmination of all those things which have shrunk the informal and the smaller sector and the medium and small enterprises whose employees are our customers. So the solution will also have to be structural. So it will take some time before it gets revived. But the festive season should pick it up a little bit, which should unwind the stocks further and help the OEs. There may be some advancement in quarter four, because there will be some price increase on account of BS6.
All right, that's a Bajaj Auto for you. Parthiv, there was a Jefferies report on autos a couple of days back. They've in fact said that despite the slowdown, the valuations have become extremely attractive. I mean, look at a Maruti. At one point, we were talking of 12,000 on this counter. It's at 6,000 right now. Hit a 2-year low and bounced back from that in the last few days. What's the sense on autos? I mean, is this slowdown factored in at these prices? Could they even head lower from here? Or is it time to start buying names like Maruti or possibly Ashok Leyland?
See, frankly, if I were to categorize the entire auto sector in terms of two-wheeler, passenger vehicle, commercial vehicles and tractor, then in which case, out of all these segments, we are most bullish on the passenger vehicle segment. And that's where we are expecting the revival to take place fastest. And I think that's the reason why we are bullish on that front, is because recent data trends do suggest that whether we talk of the wholesale inventories or the retail or the dealer level inventories, I think the number of days have reduced, which is a very, very positive sign, and which is certainly indicating some sort of base formation. And say if I were to talk about the market leader in passenger vehicle segment, which is Maruti, which is again our favorite stock in this segment, and where we are asking our clients as well to buy at this current levels, and also kind of cost average if it were to fall further 5% lower. The key reason being that if you see from the peak, Maruti sales have come off by almost 40%. Vis-a-vis the stock price also is reflecting the same trend, and from 10,000 levels it has come down by almost 40%. So I think the stock price, it seems at current juncture, is certainly pricing in all the negative. And more importantly, we know for the fact that Maruti is a cash rich company. If it needs to, it can even support many of the cash-starved dealers, which is always a good, healthy sign for long-term growth as well. So that is what probably we are expecting Maruti to do. And I think whenever we see any sort of sales revival in the monthly data, we'll see this stock really shoot up very fast. So I think these are good levels to start buying into Maruti, and even have a staggering manner approach. And if the stock were to further go down, even add more.
All right, so keep the faith with Maruti is the view coming in from Parthiv. In fact, it has seen a positive move in the last 5 days or so. We're up 2% or so. And nonetheless, most auto counters trading under pressure at the moment. Let's take that final break, then we'll come back and get you the last 15 minutes of trade, get a few more trading ideas as well from the experts. And we'll talk about IT. Wipro numbers expected later in the day. We'll bring you the preview for that. Stay tuned.
Get out of my show. No, behave yourself and what do not insult.
Let's not take it sideways. Let's not take it sideways. Okay, that is exactly what I'm saying.
India wakes up when the US goes to sleep. As the sun rises in India, it's a new day of opportunities. It's a new financial challenge. It's a new call. So what moves the markets? The Market Movers, weekdays at 8 a.m. Only on Business Television India. For a secure tomorrow, you need to prepare today. Take control of your investments and make the most of the markets. And we give you that power through information, insight, and intelligence on how to tackle the markets. Tomorrow's Bets, Monday to Thursday at 4 p.m. Only on Business Television India.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Closing Bets right here on Business Television India. Last 15 minutes of trade. We flatlined on the index in the last half an hour or so. No real movement coming in on the Nifty at the moment. We're still trading with a positive bias, 0.5% uptick on the Bank Nifty. But essentially, traders are a little cautious. More earnings that lie ahead and weekly expiry tomorrow that may, in fact, be playing on the sentiment a little bit. Vaishali, last 15 minutes of trade. Any BTST, STBT calls that you have for us?
So one is SBI, which we just spoke earlier, and that is buy at 372, stop loss 368 for a target of 380. And the other one is buy Petronet 251, stop loss 246, and target would be 256 to 258.
All right, so that's Petronet, LNG, as well as State Bank of India. A couple of trading ideas coming in there from Vaishali. Of course, in terms of what we're watching out for on the earnings front, the big one will be Wipro. We did see TCS as well as Infosys post their numbers, and it wasn't really much to write home about. Nonetheless, Infosys has on the back of those numbers hit record highs in trade as well. In terms of Wipro, we are expecting pressure to come in on the margin front, so there is that to watch out for as well. In fact, Parthiv, let me get a quick view from you. What are you watching out for as far as Wipro is concerned?
See, very frankly, I think Wipro since past many quarters has lagged and disappointed most of its IT peers. Seasonally, Q1 should be a very strong quarter, but we saw some sort of tepidness from the market leader, which is TCS. Infosys was very, very stable set of numbers in line with all the estimates. Wipro probably this quarter, one is not really expecting any sort of big bang changes in terms of the yearly guidance, or for that matter, any sort of growth triggers going ahead. Some of the key verticals, which are like energy, healthcare, they have been lagging. I think it will be very important to understand how their BFSI vertical is panning out, how's the deal pipeline looking like, and how their traction in the digital segment is going. And also they had some inorganic acquisitions, what they have contributed this quarter. So I think it will be important to judge both the organic and inorganic growth, and whether they are able to beat what they have done in the past few quarters is going to be the key driver. Because they have been, I think, growing lower than the NASSCOM's guidance range, and I think that's the key reason why the stock has been lackluster in terms of its performance. And even recently, I think the stock has come off just because I think the buyback record date was over. So I think a lot of talk did take place at the AGM from Mr. Premji, but I think it will be important to see how the numbers pan out and how they guide for the rest of the year.
Absolutely, it's the guidance which will be important to watch out for. It's a little muted, Manvi. Wipro, it's not really participated like some of the other IT stocks have in the recent past. Any call on Wipro, any of the other IT names that you like?
So that's actually true for Wipro. It's been trending sideways in the short term if we were to see the stock. But the good thing about this stock is it's just crossed the MACD right below the zero line, and we should probably be expecting it to turn positive again. And even for the RSI, it's been trading in the range, which is pretty good. It's neither overbought, neither oversold. So maybe it's going to continue that way for some time. But we can take a call when it comes to Infosys. We can take a call for Infi right now. Infi should be doing, I think we can be bullish for this particular stock. It's been trending upwards, and we should be expecting it to reach a target of around 850 probably, and place a stop loss around 770 points.
All right, so that's an Infosys, of course, has been on a tear. We've seen fresh life highs come in for this counter, continuing to see traction and heading towards the 800 mark on Infosys. Definitely a lot of action to watch out for in the IT space. But let's take a quick detour. Some important news coming out, and this will decide the fate of not just SR Steel, but also many other cases that are under insolvency proceedings. MCA sources are telling BTVI that the NCLAT SR Steel order treating various creditors at par with, the financial creditors and operational creditors at par with each other deviates from the IBC. Let's bring in Karishma Asudani with those important details. What is the view coming in from the MCA, Karishma?
Well, absolutely right, Nivrita. Certain points that we are picking up from sources from MCA, from government, tell us that MCA is not in favor of giving the same status to that of financial creditors and operational creditors. We know that hearing the big decision was taken where the due amount was also increased, and the judge had mentioned that the financial creditors and operation creditors will be given the same status. But what we're learning from sources is that government is now evaluating options to assure that financial creditors are given a step ahead in terms of in comparison to this in the bankruptcy rulings. In fact, there are two options that MCA probably could go ahead with. One, it can either implead an SE emphasizing on rights of secured creditors. Second, it might and is planning to likely go ahead in amending the IBC law. In fact, government's view is that the intent under IBC is very clear, that financial creditors come first, followed by operational creditors, and MCA believes that the NCLAT ruling on SR Steel has been unfair to the financial creditors. That could be a big setback. In case government takes any such action on this, then the resolution, which already is probably not completed on its path, will again have another hindrance coming in.
Right. In fact, MC is now also going to look into this matter. So another agency jumping into the financial creditor versus operational creditor debate. Thanks so much for getting us those details, Karishma. The last of this hasn't been heard as yet. We'll watch out for close developments on that. But last a few minutes of trade left. We were just talking about IT stocks, Vaishali. Tata Elxsi used to be a trader favorite about a year ago, but in the last 1 year has lost heavily. Today, of course, it's also reacting to its earnings, but there's a big breakdown that's happened in this stock. What happens next with this chart?
So I think, well, this has been beaten up, but just for a technical purpose, we may expect a bounce back from here on. But well, I would say focus more on Tech Mahindra and Hexaware as compared to Tata Elxsi. But the way it's fallen today, we may see some bounce coming in from tomorrow.
All right, so that's as far as some of the IT counters are concerned. Incidentally, Tech Mahindra has seen a very strong move today, and it's continuing to hold out in positive territory. 2.5% gains coming in for this one, but clearly seeing pressure for a name like Tata Elxsi. Parthiv, I just wanted a view from you on some of these aviation counters. I think Interglobe Aviation was one of Vaishali's calls that she shared with us earlier on in the show. What's the fundamental view here? Interglobe Aviation rather has recovered quite smartly after that massive cut that we saw coming in for the counter, but obviously, the back and forth is continuing on the promoter front. How concerned are you about that? And SpiceJet, in the meantime, has simply been going from strength to strength. What's your preference here?
See, we had always been recommending Interglobe Aviation even when it had gone to lows of 850, 900 at a point in time where I think their margins had really come off, and more importantly, the oil prices were playing the spoil sport. But I think after that, I heard about the controversy, which was really uncalled for, and I think many people on the street do believe that because of the controversy between the two founder promoters, both having almost equal amount of stake, I think the future trajectory in terms of where the company will invest, and more importantly, its international route expansion, could get delayed. So I think that was the fear, and we did see the stock correcting. But I think overall, if we see entire industry in terms of the aviation sector, I think there are two main players in the listed space, which is SpiceJet and Interglobe Aviation. And whatever's happened with Jet Airways in terms of now they're not flying any planes, we are seeing both these existing incumbent airlines, I think, gaining more market share. And more importantly, Interglobe Aviation has been more aggressive of the two and has gained more market share. So which we expect that going ahead, I think that should be beneficial in terms of all the earnings and all the return ratios, especially RASK and also the overall parameters on which they operate on. So I think Interglobe Aviation still seems to be the best bet. More importantly, in terms of the market share that they have retained, SpiceJet has rallied, so that's not something that I would recommend. But on declines of 5 to 10%, that is something we can consider. But still, I think the top bet in this sector remains Interglobe Aviation.
Right. Top bet would still be with the market leader Interglobe Aviation, even if it is going through its own set of issues at the moment. Technically, Manvi, how does Interglobe look? When the promoter news came out, there were a couple of days of big cuts, but since then the stock seems to have recovered.
Right. There was a massive gap down once the entire feud and entire spat was out there in the public, but the stock has still been performing quite well. You know, it's in the right range. It's not overbought right now based on the RSI index. And the MACD is still positive for this particular stock. So I think we can still be positive. We can still be bullish for this stock, and we can expect it to, it might face a little resistance around the 1600 level, which was its initial area of trading, but I think we can go long on this stock around 1500, and we can aim for a target of around 1600, 1620.
All right, that's Interglobe Aviation for you. A lot of news going on as far as the aviation space goes, and don't forget, of course, that we saw a big cool-off coming in crude prices, so that's definitely good news for these players also. Just to switch, Vaishali, a quick view from you on Zee Entertainment. You know, we haven't discussed the media space yet, but this is really the top sectoral gainer of the day, largely helped along by the likes of Zee Entertainment. Has been seeing some good traction recently. The last 5 days or so has been very positive for this counter. What's the call that you have on this stock?
On Zee, are we talking about Zee?
Zee Entertainment, yeah.
Yes, so Zee also is picking up. I think we saw a good consolidation coming at 330 levels, and from there on it's gradually moving higher. So I would recommend a buy right now. In fact, this too has been given as a BTST, and I would be looking at a target of 360, 365 in a day or two.
All right, so Zee Entertainment is another counter that we could look at. But getting into closing then, Vaishali and Manvi, will leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining in today and running us through your reading of the markets. Parthiv, just